All right, so we're now ready to start our practice room. Now this is a fictitious room that we're going to use just to begin to understand how to place objects in a space and to make them look natural. Because we're going to be working with drawing and perspective for our project, and we want to make sure we understand how to create spaces and objects and how to place them against each other and floating in a space, how to create passageways through walls and things like that. So this is the fictitious room that we're going to start with. We're going to begin by building these two walls and then the doorway inside. Then we're going to draw the bookcase against this wall. Then we're going to build the chair against this wall. And then we're going to build this table floating in the middle of the floor. After that, there are a list of challenges, and you'll need to choose which of the challenges you would like to try. The list is on Schoology, and you can access that list and pick which of the challenges you want to do. There's a whole bunch. Obviously, the candy bowl on the table is just one of those. So we're going to start just with these two walls. These videos on each of the pieces of furniture are going to be done in a series of short videos rather than of one big video. So the first thing I need you to understand about this particular drawing is there are some exact things you must follow. First of all, our horizon line is going to be 3.5 inches down from the top edge of the page. There is an exact measurement that you must use for this placement, as well as how much space is above the eye level and how much space is below the eye level. There are also some other measurements that are much predicted. This one has a prediction. This one has a given height. This one has a given height. So there are things on this page that you must follow, and then there's variance within that. So we're going to start with just drawing the two walls. And as I said, we're going to be measuring down 3.5 inches from the top edge of the page, making a few marks before we get started so that we can get our horizon line placed correctly. So I'm lining up my ruler with the top edge of the paper and making a small mark at 3.5 inches on one side. And I'm going to do that again on the other side, lining up my ruler, making my mark at 3.5. And I'm going to draw that line across. I'm going to try to press hard with my pencil so that you can see it on the video, but I recommend that you keep your lines pretty light so that in case anything needs to get erased. Obviously, you wouldn't keep a horizon line in your finished drawing. That would be something you would want to be able to erase, but is definitely something you want to be able to see. So make sure that that's drawn in a way that you can erase it on your project. For this, it's okay because we're going to leave it there. All right, so the next line that we need to draw is the corner of the room. So let's take a look at this finished sample. Now the corner of the room is here. It is not in the middle of the page, so make sure you're placing it closer to the left side, not to the right, because we need to have enough room on this left wall for the doorway and the chair. Over here we only have a bookcase, so we're going to place it closer to this left edge of the page. Now this line is scripted. We need to make sure that we're following this recommendation. This is 3.5 inches tall, and your horizon line must be at 1.5 inches. And I also need to make sure that this line is perpendicular to my horizon line. So let's say I'm going to place that line about here. I need to make sure 1.5 is on the horizon line. And I also need to make sure it's perpendicular. So how do I know if my ruler is perpendicular? Well, I can use my handy triangle, line this up with the edge of my ruler, and then I can check here. And I know that my ruler is slightly off. So I need to make sure that now my ruler in triangle, my triangle wants to slide under my ruler a bit, so I want to make sure that I'm getting this correct. I'm adjusting the tilt of my ruler. That feels pretty good right there. That looks pretty fair. So I think I'm in a good spot. So again, 1.5 inches there, and I'm going to make it 3.5 inch line. So from the top of the ruler, 1.5 inch down to 3.5. So there's slightly less space above than below. And the reason why that is when I'm standing in a space, my head is slightly above the midway point on the wall. Like think about being at home. Your eye level is not at the top of the door. It's not at the floor line unless you were a baby crawling. So your eye is slightly higher than halfway up the wall. So this is where my eye level is going to be. Now from there, this is going to be similar to drawing a box, only rather than drawing from the outside as we did in our first exercise, we're going to be drawing from the inside of the box. So in this case, I'm going to go from my right horizon line, or my right vanishing point on the horizon line, to the bottom of my line that I just made, but I'm not drawing here. Instead, I'm starting at my base of the line and drawing over. That's going to be my floorboard. That's right where the edge, the wall meets the floor. And now I'm going to draw the ceiling. This is where the wall meets the ceiling. So again, I'm going from my right vanishing point to the top of the line. It's kind of in reverse. Like when we drew our boxes, I said always start with the line that's closest to you. In this case, we're starting with the line that's furthest away from us, which is that corner. This is the furthest point in the room. So now I've got my left wall established. Now I need to draw the right wall. So now I'm going to go from my right or left vanishing point to the bottom of the line that I made. And I have to scoop my ruler because it's not quite long enough to reach all the way. So again, I'm just lining that up with this, making sure I've got it straight. So there's the floorboard. I'm going to go from the vanishing point to the top and get my other ceiling line established. All right, so there is the start of the corner of the room. So bookcase is going to go here, doorway and chair and table. So we're going to start with the doorway, and after I get the doorway made, then I'm going to cut from this video and then we'll start the video on the bookcase. So first of all, I want to start with the doorway over in this space. Don't want to start directly in the corner. I want to give a little bit of wall space because remember there's a bookcase there, so I don't want to walk in and hit the bookcase. So I want to make sure that my doorway is slightly to the right here. And as always, I want to start with the line that is closest to me. Now this first line is going to cross my horizon line. So you remember when we did the box that crossed the horizon line, we had to use the inside of the handle to make sure that we were perpendicular. So I'm going to use that technique again. I'm using this edge of the handle, lining it up with my horizon line. And again, I'm going to make it move over a little bit more. So remember, the door is going to be going this way, so make sure you're starting, that you have enough space to create the side of the door and have enough wall space left. Now, does the door go all the way to the ceiling? No, there's usually a header at the top that allows you to create a beam in there for structure for a building. So I'm going to start my doorway about there and come down because this space is the part above the door. So that's my first line for my doorway, and there's going to be a top to the door and then another vertical. So the top line is established from the left vanishing point and going to the top of this line. So about there. So that's the start of that. And now I need one more vertical line. And again, I'm using my handle, lining that up and down. So now I've got the front of that opening. Now if you remember, in our sample, this is a walkway, so this is into another room. So there's not an actual door there as much as it is an opening into another room. So we're going to establish this angle and get our top and bottom on there so that we can have this opening into this other room over here. Maybe it's a kitchen or a dining room or something. So I'm going to go from my right vanishing point to this inside top corner of the door. And I'm going to establish the thickness of the wall. So now if you make that too thick, it won't be believable as a wall. So think about how thick a wall is and how big you think that should be. And I'm also going to do the same thing down here. And I'm going to guess at the length because of course I want these two to line up at some point. So I'm going to have to guess approximately how long I did that one. It's possible that I've misguessed on one of those and I'll have to erase a little bit, but that's all right. So I've got my angle established here and here. Both of those came from my right vanishing point. And now again, I'm going to use that handle to line up. Make sure that's lined up and it's lined up here. And it looks like I'm a little bit off there, so I'll have to erase that. And then lastly, I'm going to line up my left vanishing point with that little line I made there at the top. And that will give me the top edge of the opening into that next room. Now, what should I erase? Well, I'm going to erase that little bitty line there, and I'm going to erase this floor line out because this is a space into another room. Now, I could leave it there if I was going to go from like hardwood floor to tile or something like that, but I'm going to erase it out so that this looks like an opening where you could walk directly into the next space without anything in the way. All right, so that is the basis for our room, and we'll move on to a new video to talk about the bookcase.